Hello and welcome back, Disney fans. Today we have another exciting video for you, but before we begin, we'd like to give a spoiler warning. Today we're going to be discussing the real reason Sisu was chosen as the last dragon, and there will be spoilers. You have been warned. But if you're ready for some dragon-filled fun, let's get started. What we know from the movie. The movie is set in the land of Kumandra, where humans and dragons lived side by side before evil spirits, known as Droon, began to destroy everything. The Droon wiped out life by absorbing any soul it came across, thereby turning the soul's previous body into stone. Sisu, the last dragon, and all of her siblings used all of their powers to create a magical gem that would ward off the Droon. This dragon gem was so powerful that it restored life to everyone who had fallen victim to the Droon. Everyone except for the dragons. Jumping hundreds of years ahead, we meet Raya, who is on a journey to find the last dragon in order to save her father, a victim of the Droon. After a long voyage, Raya makes it to the home of the Tail tribe, and finally manages to summon Sisu, the last dragon. It is here where they begin their journey together to collect the remaining pieces of the broken dragon gem and save the world from the Droon. After Raya uses the incantation to summon Sisu, the audience finally gets a more detailed story of what happened to the other dragons and how their fate truly played out. As Sisu explains, when the Droon began to turn everyone and everything into stone, Sisu and her siblings became the last survivors. Together, they all created the dragon gem by putting their powers into the orb and finally handing it to Sisu to complete before being taken by the Droon. It is at that point that Sisu becomes the last remaining dragon who had not been turned to stone. Sisu used the power of the dragon gem to break the curse and bring the humans back to life. Sadly, the dragons were not so lucky and remained encased in stone. After defeating the Droon, Sisu fell into the water and was carried to the end of the river, where she had been sleeping for centuries. The Droon are an interesting enemy. In the film, Sisu explains that Droon are the polar opposite of dragons. Dragons are the embodiment of selflessness and all things good. They also symbolize unity through mutual trust as well as life. Droon, on the other hand, are monsters. They are depicted as creatures of pure evil. They say that they are born from human discord, with their only reason for existing being to destroy or consume anything in their path. Nothing else matters to them. We don't know for sure why Sisu was chosen by her siblings to be the last living dragon, but we know that if it wasn't for her, the humans would never have been saved. 3 theories are circulating on why Sisu's siblings really chose her to complete such an important task. Theory 1. Sisu had the purest heart. The first theory revolves around the fact that Sisu had the purest heart out of all her siblings, and they knew it. This would explain why they chose her. At first it would seem like they only picked her to boost her self-confidence, or make her realize her powers. As we know, Sisu wasn't the most confident dragon, and didn't have the best self-esteem when it came to the powers she possessed, except the confidence she had in her ability to swim, of course. Throughout the movie, we see multiple instances where it's clear that Sisu doesn't think too highly of herself, and she believes that all her success comes from riding her siblings' coattails. "Look, I'm gonna be real with you. I am not like the best dragon," she humorously tells Raya when she's awoken from her sleep. From this perspective, it almost seems foolish to put such a responsibility onto a dragon that doesn't know what the heck she's doing, and it doesn't really make sense that her siblings would put the fate of the world on the youngest and least confident one of them. However, if you look a little closer, her siblings may have had a more pragmatic reason. At first, the only power she seems to possess is the ability to swim really well. That's it. All of the other powers we see her possess throughout the film are those of her siblings as they collect the pieces of the gem. It isn't until the end that we see Sisu's true power, the gift of unity. Out of all of her siblings, she is really good at bringing people and things together, even literally uniting all of her siblings' powers in a single gem. It turns out her pure heart, selfless gift-giving, and ability to trust others were the things that made her able to have the ultimate power of unity. And as we talked about before, Droon are the embodiment of destruction and tearing things apart. Would it be possible that Sisu's siblings knew this? By the looks of things, her siblings were far more experienced than she was, so it would only make sense that this was their tactical explanation. They weren't trying to give her a confidence boost. They know that she was literally the best option they had for survival. They knew that Sisu's gift of unity from her pure heart would be the perfect counter against the Droon. Theory 2. Her siblings knew the Droon couldn't cross the water, and Sisu was a water dragon. The second theory circles around the fact that Sisu is a water dragon and how her siblings knew that the Droon were unable to cross the water. Even if this hadn't been mentioned in the film, it would be clear in the design of Sisu. Sisu was designed as a reference to the Naga. The Naga is a snake-like guardian from various belief systems such as Buddhism and Hinduism, as well as Jainism. Nagas were often depicted as bringers of rain, along with life and prosperity. The Naga also tend to be curious by nature, much like Sisu is, and are capable of causing natural disasters such as floods or droughts. The latter of which can be seen in a heartbreaking scene later in the film. Think about it. Sisu has the power to summon rain, which is also an ability that the Naga are claimed to have. She is able to breathe underwater, along with being an impeccable swimmer. Even when we see her shapeshift, She's changing the shape of her body, which is made up of at least 70% water along with other liquids, meaning that even then she is manipulating water. Everything about her screams that she's a water dragon, so why would this be helpful against the Droon? As we know from the film, the Droon are unable to cross water. So, simply put, having Sisu around means having the water around. And with the water acting as a natural barrier, this would provide a bit of extra defense from the Droon. Even if her siblings didn't pick her for the unity power she possessed, they probably knew that having a water dragon survive would give that extra chance of success the world needed from the Droon. Theory 3. If Sisu had turned to stone, the humans would have vanished too. The third and final theory looks at the idea that if Sisu had turned to stone like her siblings, it would have caused the humans to cease existing as well. This can be seen toward the end of the movie when we see the heartbreaking scene where Sisu dies. As soon as Sisu dies, the water disappears. All waterfalls, lakes, rivers, and creeks completely dry up. When Sisu is brought back to life at the end of the movie, what does she bring with her? The water. Almost immediately, all of the water around Kumandra reappears along with Sisu and her siblings. This means that Sisu is essentially responsible for the existence of the water. Could it be that her siblings knew this? If so, that would absolutely explain why they would choose Sisu to be the last remaining dragon despite her being the youngest. They would have known that if Sisu were to turn to stone, all the water would disappear. This would be catastrophic for multiple reasons, the most immediate being the fact that the Droon would be able to go anywhere very easily with no natural barriers, as mentioned in theory number 2. But it would also be problematic because all life on Earth, including humans, rely on water as their key component of survival. This, along with the other two theories, clearly show that Sisu was, in fact, more important than we were led to believe at the beginning of the film when we were first introduced to the self-doubting and lovable Last Dragon. Disney's latest CG animated film had a very popular release, and after watching, it's clear to see why. How did you feel about Raya and the Last Dragon, and why do you think Sisu was chosen by her siblings to be the Last Dragon? Be sure to let us know in the comments down below. That's all, Disney fans. Like and subscribe for more magically packed videos.